Hello and welcome to the main event. Today is, Wednesday, June 14th. I am very appreciative of everyone joining us today. Thanks for waiting. Do apologize about the delay. Had some things get in the way. But we're here now and got some stuff to talk about. But before I do, if you're just now joining us, just now finding this channel, and you're asking yourself, who is this guy? It's a little early for the phone call. I'm in the middle of a monologue here. What are you doing calling? Asking what I'm doing behind this microphone in front of this camera. My name is Joe Tillman, and I've been in the hair restoration industry as a veteran. I've said in the past of the hair restoration industry. That's actually got multiple meanings. I'm a veteran of hair restoration war. I guess that's one thing we could say. But I've been in the industry for 20 years, and I got my start as a repair patient from having 2 bad surgeries 9 years before I even got into the business. And 20 years ago, started working for the clinic that repaired me. And then, 8 years ago, went independent. What does that mean? Well, it means that I work with multiple clinics. If you go to my website or look here on my YouTube channel at different playlists, I work with about 15 different doctors worldwide, and they applied to work with me to be a part of what I do, to be recognized as hair transplant mentor doctors, and they passed, and we worked together. What does that mean? Well, it means I made a video about them, telling you why I think that they're worth your consideration if you've gotten to the point where you think surgery is right for you. But if you are a subscriber to this channel, you have hopefully gone through my hair transplant class, which is another playlist into itself, where the very first class I talk about not having a hair transplant. I actually started off, I say, don't have a hair transplant. What does that mean? Well, I got a lot of hate for that video. It's got 700,000 views or something, but I got a lot of hate for that video because people weren't watching the whole thing. They'd see that intro and they'd be like, well, who is he to tell me not to have a hair transplant? And in comments like that. But the message was, don't have a hair, I say this at the end, don't have a hair transplant unless you have done enough research to where you know that it is not a guaranteed outcome. That it's not going to be, well, it may be, wind up being what you want, but there's a chance it won't be. And you are at peace with that. That you're not going to be one of these people that goes in and has a surgery, and because it's not perfect, you blame the surgeon or you blame who you think might be a technician. You don't recognize the fact that it's just the way things work when it comes to such a highly variable procedure as hair restoration. So don't have a hair transplant unless you learn that fact. There are very few facts of what you can expect in hair restoration surgery, and a potential bad outcome is one of them. So I went off on a tangent there. But anyway, yeah, so here we are today, June 14th, 2023. The lines are open, as you could hear, so you can go ahead and give us a call. It is 1-833-563-4247. But before or until a call comes in, today's episode focuses around yet another Korean pharmaceutical company, or we'll say playa, in the hair loss space. Okay, here we go. We'll go and jump on this. Hey, you're on the main event. What's your name and where are you calling from?
It's Morty from Brooklyn.
Hey, Morty. How you doing, buddy?
Good. Now, just for the record, that wasn't me calling in the middle of your monologue. So
that's okay.
Don't get pissed.
That's okay.
That was not me.
I know. I can see the numbers. I appreciate the clarification, though, for everyone else's benefit.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, man. So I'm calling because I came across something on my Instagram from one of the many hair doctors that are out there. He's not one of yours, but he's fairly well known. He's someone that Rob Helner seems to like a lot, Dr. Umar. Mm-hmm. And he put out an interesting article about male contraceptives and how they can be good for hair loss. A, wanted to ask you if you knew anything about this, and B, if you had any opinion on it.
Well, as far as I know, there's nothing that's on the market as of today that is considered to be a male contraceptive. Is this a medication that's in trial?
I believe so, and it is something called a progestogenic androgen or an androgenic progestogen or something like that.
Progestogenic androgen, yeah.
Yeah. And what I believe it does is it does something to your hormones, specifically testosterone, and it has the effect of reducing the number of little swimmers you have.
Yeah.
And doctor, in the article, it basically states that anything that reduces the number of swimmers you have, or in this case, reduces the amount of testosterone that you have, will have an effect on how much your hair is falling out, which seems logical because T, turns into DHT, which is why, Propecia and dutasteride, finasteride and dutasteride do their thing. But apparently this is yet some other variation on a theme. And, so personally, the whole idea of taking something to bring my T down seems, and again, maybe it's because I'm 53, going to be 54 in a couple of weeks. Whether that's something that just bothers me at my age, or whether it's something that any man would. The whole idea of bringing your T down seems a little sketchy to me. But apparently, the people who were involved in this trial said that they didn't suffer any side effects from it. Well, and they were willing to take it. So.
I find that to be an interesting position to take. If someone if someone is saying that yes, it lowers your testosterone, but there are no side effects.
Yeah,
I saw before I went on air. I saw your email come through. I saw the. I saw the subject line. I just didn't get a chance to actually open it and look at it because I was scrambling trying to get everything together. But the entire notion, let me back up. If that's what the article says, or that's the summary of it, then there has to be more to it than simply being a testosterone reduction. There has to be some other mechanism at play, because just general testosterone reduction has all kinds of issues. Aside from reducing the number of swimmers, it also reduces the ability to deliver those swimmers, if you know what I'm saying. So
I get it.
So there has to be something much more comprehensive that's not being So I've not read it. I have no idea what's in the article. I've not, like, in theory. Okay, if that's what's working, then sure, I can see how it would lessen the impact of hair loss, or lessen the degree of hair loss one would suffer from, because if there's less testosterone, it means that there's less being converted into DHT, yada yada yada. But I've got my ideas as to why that was even put into quote unquote an article. This was on Yahoo News, or was this some sort of self-published? Like what's the source of this?
That's a good question. So I did a search. Well, here's the thing. It came across to me from whatchamacallit, through Instagram. When you're watching these little shorts, and it came through there. How it got to me is, could it have been an ad for Dr. Umar's, or is it just a way of him putting content out there to,
sorry, I missed the part about Dr. Umar. So Dr. Umar has this quote-unquote article.
Yes. He wrote the article, yes.
Okay. Well. Yeah.
So, it's interesting. So that's why I read it. Like, oh, this could make for interesting content, if nothing else.
Well, maybe Mr. Rob, next caller please, Hellner, can elaborate on this, since he's obviously a patient of Dr. Umar, and he's such a fan of him. Maybe he's got some sort of comment on that he'd like to share with the group.
Sounds like a plan, Joe.
Yeah.
All I know is that I like my finasteride, and I ain't gonna mess around with anything else. That's all I'm gonna say about it.
Can you imagine the implosion one would have taking finasteride and then taking something like this, if that is in fact what it does, it lowers your can you imagine?
Yeah, it's chemical castration, I would say.
We'd have people reporting the fact that their midsection simply just vanished.
Yeah.
As a side effect.
It's like, hey, I look like a Ken doll now. What happened?
It became transparent. It became opaque. Anyway, goodness gracious. All right. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'll let you go, but I just wanted to be first caller because I always like being first caller. And once again, to thank you, Joe, for doing this and for for making things as good as they are, and hopefully you can keep on saving lives the way that you do.
Well, thank you very much, my friend. I appreciate that nice comment and the support as always, and always good to hear from you. Thanks for calling.
Anytime. Take care.
All right, buddy. Bye-bye. Line is open, 1-833-563-4247. There was someone from, I believe, a 770 area code trying to call in. You got beat out by Morty. You can give us a shout again. Be glad to talk to you, answer your question. Let's see, who's this? What we got going on here? This is an international call. Hey, you're on the air with Joe. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hello, Joe. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Oh, you recognize me?
Yes.
I'm good. I want to sleep, but, I like your show.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. How you been? How you doing?
Slow but steady. It's 5 months. There is the progress. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think my progress is a little bit slower. Well, at least comparing with those guys who post to forum,
Yeah.
To the forum. I think you know that forum. And I see that 5 months or 6 months give more result for them. But looking through the forum, I see that they, after a couple of months after HT, they start to use Rogaine or minoxidil. Maybe it accelerates the growth. And I start to do so. Yeah, and I think maybe I should use topical minoxidil, or maybe I should go use oral minoxidil.
Well,
or
my opinion on this is the body is has an amazing ability to heal, regenerate in certain situations, and recover. And I do know that sometimes clinics will recommend the use of minoxidil immediately post-op and then for the first full year. Most clinics do not. Sometimes patients will take it upon themselves to add minoxidil to their routine halfway through their recovery period. I think that's a terrible idea. And the reason why I think it's a terrible idea is anytime you introduce a new hair loss treatment into your routine, you run the risk of telogen effluvium, of creating a shed phase that you would not want to have at any point, especially after having had surgery just a few months prior. So I don't agree that there is a propensity for increased growth or accelerated recovery after the use of, or after the adoption of minoxidil a few months after surgery. I've never seen that. In fact, if someone were to ask me, and they have, should they start taking minoxidil after surgery, like say 3-4 months in, I would say no, because I've seen more cases of a negative impact than I have a positive impact. So my advice to you, I'm not a doctor, you know that, is to follow the advice of your doctors, Dr. Sever and Laura Merceneau, to the letter. Talk to them about this approach. If they say go ahead, then do what you will.
I did actually.
Okay. What'd they say?
First of all, thank you very much that you said something about your experience, that you're saying that many cases displayed a negative effect. People had shedding and maybe unexpected shedding. Yes?
Yeah.
I thought about it. I remember my experience using topical minoxidil, and I had shedding phase. It's like synchronization phase or something like that. That most doctors say that your follicles just shocked about the direct effect of that alcohol-containing liquid, and they started to fall out. But after several months, my native hair, started to grow. And I take this in consideration. I took this in consideration. But I wanted to ask you about your experience. And you said that most of the case was negative. Yeah. So shedding was there. But I asked a guy from the forum, and he said he didn't have that shedding. And I just got this into consideration. And I asked Laura Mursano, they pronounce it, something like that. And she say, you can use this. She said that when patient ask, I say during the first month, you can take 2%, you can apply. And after this, you can apply 5%. But you have to be aware of the risks that you mentioned. Yeah, that's what she said.
Not to mention, that's what she, not to mention, May, if you start taking it, when do you stop taking it? After a year? After 2 years? And guess what happens at the end of that time when you stop taking it? Potentially, any hair that you've influenced in a positive way will also fall out.
Yeah, I got this. But, so decision should be, have to depend on goals. For instance, what if I want to a fuller hair during, I don't know, next years, 2 years, yeah. And after that, maybe I don't need it, because this is life, And or maybe I want to have this for the rest of my life, and I will permanently apply or take.
Well, that's just it, May. When you take on a new hair loss treatment, as far as I'm concerned, you need to assume that you're going to be taking it for life, because you don't just stop taking medications, whether it's to help a surgery, your recovery.
Depends on the goals.
Well, I'm talking about hair loss. I'm talking about specifically with hair loss. If you start a new medication, you have to consider what will happen if you stop taking it. In other words, if you want to give all of your hair, both transplanted and native hair, the best possible chance available for continued growth and strengthening and recovery, if you had surgery, all these things, then you most likely will be taking this, if not for life, then for many, many years. Because the moment that you stop taking it, it puts everything that it has affected into a potential spiral, to where some of those benefits are reversed.
Even transplanted hair, you mean?
Well, that's actually that part's tricky, because there's this idea that some people talk about where hair becomes minoxidil dependent. In other words, they become I don't like to say the word used to, because that implies some sort of cognizance, but their health.
It sounds.
Their health. Listen.
Yeah.
Their health becomes dependent on a certain degree of blood flow that they normally would not be getting if the influencer such as minoxidil was not present. Okay? So the baseline for a healthy hair follicle is risen. It's higher. So once you take that treatment away, being minoxidil, then the blood flow reduces, and that in and of itself can trigger a telogen. Now, will it be permanent? Probably not. But my point is, unless you're willing to commit to something for the long term, don't do it. If you just had surgery and you're trying to influence the recovery and you're halfway through or a couple months through, I'm not a fan of that. Like, do what you want. And not just you, but anyone listening to this. But I have seen, well, in my professional experience for the past 20 years, I can't count how many surgeries I've seen, both personally and, through people I know or just, observing, online. Countless thousands that have not used minoxidil at any point. Some of them not even finasteride. They're just letting surgery do what it does, and that's recover, and the grafts grow, and everything turns out just fine.
Within what period? Average period? Within a year?
Yeah, a year. You gotta look at a transplant as a 1-year commitment of uncertainty. Like, you're looking at it, you don't know what's happening. And you said something. You said something earlier where you're talking about forums. My feeling is, I got a question for you. You had your surgery. You're still going on the forums and you're talking to people. What are you hoping to? What do you think will change? What do you think you'll learn on the forums, here we are a few months after your surgery, that will change anything?
I'm just trying to compare my result to others.
Why?
Maybe because maybe they use something to accelerate the growth.
No one has.
That's simple.
No one uses anything to accelerate growth. Like,
they use Rogaine.
Yeah. But what I'm talking about is there's nothing out there that is new, that you've never heard of, that you'll suddenly learn about, that will change anything. As far as minoxidil goes, if you want to try that, that's up to you. I've given you my opinion on it, but there's nothing else you're going to learn.
Yeah.
And in my view, going to the forums and looking at others and their progress, I think that's a bad idea. Because it's causing you to question your own result. And then when you start questioning your own result, you start getting a bit anxious. And I'm speaking in general terms to everyone, not just to you, May. But I'm actually a big believer in mind over matter. Because when you have anxiety about something, your cortisol levels start to rise. When your cortisol levels start to rise, the possibility or the probability of internal inflammation can also increase. And when you have internal inflammation, then you have a cascading effect that can affect your immune system.
That's psychology stuff.
It's not no, this is actual physiological stuff, not psychological. Mm-hmm. It's a physiological response to a psychological response, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So I'm a big believer. If you have your surgery, get off the damn forums. Seriously, get off the damn forums. Don't even you got your basic questions, which you might want to have answered, but you go to your clinic. Like I saw today, I was on Facebook, I was posting a link for the show, and someone had just had surgery, and they're asking a bunch of anonymous people when he can start wearing a hard hat again because he works in construction. I'm like, oh God, talk to your clinic about this stuff. Why? I don't understand why people do that. They ask a bunch of
wearing what?
They ask a bunch of anonymous people, when can I wear a hard hat again after my surgery? They don't know. They know what they might have been told by their clinic. Most of them have not even had to ask that question because they don't wear hard hats. They're not construction workers. This guy is. So he should be talking to his clinic. These guys don't know. And that's the whole I understand completely. And I've been a part of it. The brotherhood that develops on forums, like, you get to same thing like in the chat room right here. Like, a lot of the same people keep coming back to the show every day because they enjoy the camaraderie, and I love that. That's fantastic. But on forums, you're going there and you just said you're looking to compare your results. Why? It doesn't change anything. Your results are going to do what they're going to do regardless of what you see on someone else's head. Your case is unique to you. And what I want for you, May, and for any patient that has a hair transplant, is to create the most positive recovery environment that's possible and to have the least amount of anxiety about what you've done, because it doesn't help you. And I encourage people to give the result the time it needs to do what it's going to do. And if there's anything that should be done, your clinic would have told you about what needs to be done. You have a sheet or a thumb drive or a CD, depending on where you go, of post-op instructions, not just immediate post-op instructions for the first week or two, but also how to take care of your transplant, what to expect. Most clinics have something like this. And if they don't give it to you, then you call your clinic or you email or WhatsApp or whatever, and you ask. You don't go to a forum and ask a bunch of anonymous people that have zero clue except for their own experience, if that much.
Yeah, I got your point, my friend.
So sorry, and sorry to sound like I'm lecturing, but I kind of am because it's something I believe passionately in, that you need to, and again, speaking in general terms to everyone, you need to not compare yourself to everyone else until you get to the point where, okay, I should have my final result. It's 12 months, it's 14 months, whatever. Then it makes sense, because then you can understand. Like, first you look at where you started, then you look at your result and you compare it to what your expectations were, what you were told by the clinic should be your expectations, what they expected, and then you can look at others as well and compare. I mean, it's just human nature. I get it. And I can't fault you or anyone for doing that. I've done it many times. But don't lose sleep over it. And I'm not saying you are, but it's an expression. But don't compare yourself to other people, especially so early in the game.
Early in the game. Yeah, I got this. Thank you for your words. I recollect words of Dr. Severo Morisano.
Mm-hmm.
He told me that I actually being in Stetten, Schaffhausen.
Mm-hmm.
I told him that I'm gonna post these photos to the forum. He said, "You shouldn't go to forums because sometimes people can say you something and you will get angry. I recommend you to just wait for a year."
Mm-hmm.
And make any judgment.
Yeah,
I remember that.
Sever is a smart guy. He's a smart guy and
experienced.
Not just with surgery, but in with regards to the subject itself of hair loss and hair restoration. And what he told you is exactly right. And who was it? FSK in the chat room. He says it perfectly. Get off the forums, get in the gym, and go do something with your life and make something of yourself. I'm sure May is making something of himself, but keeping yourself as healthy as possible, exercising, eating right, all these things are what you can actually do to create the best environment possible for recovery and regrowth. That's what it comes down to.
It's 14 kilos. It's 14 kilos.
What's 14 kilos?
A kilogram. I've lost it during the 3 months. Yeah.
You've lost 14 kilos in the past 3 months?
Yeah, but I did it, I could do this, within 1 month, taking, very heavy exercises and losing or, important elements, like calcium. Yeah, when you do heavy exercises in the short term. But this time I had enough patience to do this slowly. So I don't have any anxiety because I'm becoming more happier and happier each month. Yeah?
Good.
And I went to forums with cold head, without any passion. Yeah, I'm a bit more mature, maybe that you thought, or your message was, in general. Yes, I'm not worried about my slow but steady progress. I just thought maybe I could use something that will not damage or take any negative effect to just increase the speed. But I am totally cold-headed.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. I will tell you, though,
I'm happier and happier every month because I can see how my frame, my look is changing, and now I'm using Topic and go to the work, and people say that I got my friends and close friends said that you look like you look like full head of hair.
Well, that's always a good thing. That's always a good thing. My question to you, though, is why did you lose 14 kilos in 3 months? What were you doing? Were you dieting? Were you doing intermittent fasting? Were you?
So that's kind of magic because before that I do sport a lot. I like CrossFit, but about diet I couldn't keep myself in the discipline. For instance, if I have heavy training, I still have sugar. Mm-hmm. But during the last 3 months, I don't know how it happened, but I just didn't eat it. I just didn't. So I started to control myself better. But how, I don't know. Maybe my mind and subconsciousness.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know how to explain this.
I get it. I get it. The reason why I'm asking about that, May, the reason why I'm asking about that is because rapid hair loss in a short amount of time is not the best thing to go through when you're recovering from a hair transplant.
Rapid weight loss, you mean?
What'd I say?
Hair loss.
You can see where my head is. Rapid weight loss, sorry, is not the best thing to go through when you're recovering from, in general, rapid hair loss in general, or weight loss. Smack myself. Rapid weight loss in general is not a good idea because it can induce hair loss. So So what I would recommend is maybe cut back on your on the way that you're eating, or not cut back, but maybe reintroduce some of the things that you had cut out of your diet back into your diet.
I just cut sugar, man.
That's all you did. That's all you did was cut sugar.
And you know how to say? I'm gonna say this. Give me a second.
Did you cut carbs?
The flour. not all carbs. You know, I eat. How to say? I eat oatmeal. I eat buckwheat, if you know.
Buckwheat, yeah, yeah, that's good.
I eat, but I don't eat bananas because we don't. Our bananas don't have any kali or important ingredients,
right?
You know, and I sugar replacement flavor. When I drink tea, I don't put a real sugar, but replacement, the flavor.
Yeah. Okay.
Заменитель, да. Well, in here, I think I applied, more or less scientific approach. I do understand that I forgot those elements like zinc, maybe, or calcium, or important proteins to maintain recovery. Yes, but sugar but still, of course, I have to admit that I decrease size of my plate.
Yeah, your portions.
Yeah, my portions.
Yeah,
I decrease them, but I think I don't need to eat a lot because my body just not able to digest.
Well, if you are into CrossFit and you're doing weight training and things like that, cutting back on your portions.
Not now. Now I don't do heavy exercises.
Okay.
The less exercises, more diet.
Okay.
Exercises I do, but not so extreme.
Okay.
Mode.
Well, okay. So you're in more of a balance now than you were, to where you're not working out so hard, you're not working out so much. Your portion control is kind of strict. You're not eating sugar. That's fine. Don't change anything else. Like just stay the course. Okay, just live your life. Don't change anything about your nutrition. Don't change any. Don't just let your body process what's going on with your hair and not have to deal with anything else. Okay, 14 kilos is a lot. That's a lot of weight. Like, congratulations. Like I am impressed with that degree of weight loss. I went through that myself about 10 years ago.
Wait a second. 14, not 40. 14.
I know. 4. Yeah, I get it. That's a lot of progress. That's a lot of weight.
My body get used to jumping from weight to weight.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I didn't do this wisely before, because some year I weighted 80 kilos, some year I weighted 70. Because I was doing different exercises.
Of course, I get it.
Yeah,
I get it.
But my body got used to this. But now I do understand that all important elements should be maintained in my body.
Yes, exactly. Your nutrition, which means you're getting the right vitamins and different ingredients into your body so that it can do what it needs to do to exist, in a healthy way, in a healthy manner. That's what's most important. Cutting out the sugar, that's fantastic. Good for you. I did the same. Like, I went through this myself about 10 years ago. I cut out all sugars, back into strength training, and I lost roughly about the same amount that you did in about the same amount of time. 25 to 30 pounds, which is roughly 30 pounds is roughly 14 kilos in the same region. It was over the course of 3 months. So I understand that I've been there myself. Good for you. Congratulations. But moving forward, I would recommend sending a quick email to the clinic and just let them know, say, by the way, just so you know, I did lose 14 kilos over the course of 3 months recently, because it would be good for them to have that in your file. Okay? Because if there's some sort of question that you have about your results, or if they have questions about your results, or if they have questions about you, if they have, in other words, it's good for your clinic to have such information, just so they can factor that into whatever discussion they may be having with you about whatever. It's just generally good information for them to have, because it does have the potential to impact things if it's too much. Okay, so it doesn't sound like it was. If it was, I think that you'd be calling me up with more extreme questions, to put it mildly. But I think that you're in a better place than I didn't mean to make it sound like you're losing your mind, because I know you're not. But it sounds like you are in a good place. I would recommend that you do stay off the forums and just let your hair do what it's going to do. Enjoy it. It sounds like you are enjoying it. It's a great feeling to have people compliment your hair. No question about it. And I'm really happy to hear that about you. But stay off the forums. Just live your life and revisit this at the end of a year. And I mean, I want to hear from you before then. You're welcome to call anytime. But let's talk about the results when the results are actually here. They're not here yet. And don't go to the forums. Don't look at other people's results. Nothing is out there that's going to accelerate your growth or your recovery or anything like that. That's up to Mother Nature. So just give it the time it needs to do what it's going to do, and then move forward from there. Okay?
Okay. Real quick.
Okay.
Give me a minute. So in my plans to go for the second surgery after a year, where I'm gonna ask the doctors what would be the possible earliest time, because now when I see that it really works, I just can't get enough, because I had only 4.5 thousand grafts, which is and Dr. Severe says you have to think maybe you will get this enough, and maybe I will, but 4.5, but how about 6, 7, or even 8,000? It will be cooler,
Mm-hmm.
Why not? Why not to have, lion's lane or lane? I forgot how.
A lion's mane. Yeah, I get it. But the reason why I talk about caution for the second surgery or any surgery is because you need to have some skepticism about the outcome. And if you're willing to take the chance for a second surgery, great. But don't go in expecting it to be perfect, because it might not be perfect. But of course I understand. It's hair greed. You already have hair greed. You're happy enough with your result to where you can see what it's doing. It's like, all right, well, why can't we do a second one? And I think that's great that you feel that way, but don't rush it, okay? Let this do what it's going to do, then evaluate and talk to them about, a date, okay?
Yeah, but I have to plan. Yeah, I'm going to go to forums only to post my progress because of my social responsibility, yeah? And I'm going to see through others people progress, but not just because, I need it, yeah?
Mm-hmm. I get it. I get it. I know.
Yeah.
I know. There's
it will not influence my life much. Yeah,
it's nice to get a little validation. I get it. It's all good.
Yeah. And after a year, when I have a result, we will discuss this result with you, I hope.
Of course.
Maybe we will come back to the oral or topical minoxidil. And I had some question, analysis paralysis about oral minoxidil, but now I won't ask this because you almost convinced me 99% that I shouldn't apply this before at least a year.
That's exactly what I would say.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you very much, because you have very strong opinion about this. Yeah, I thought maybe you say do as you want to do, but you have a strong opinion, and I will consider this. I considered your opinion once when I almost got to the trap to the Turkish clinic.
Mm-hmm.
I will, how to say thank you, big thank you. I don't know how to express it in the future to you.
Oh, that's plenty
But
enough.
I mean, when I will have my 1 year result, I will be sure, or
Mm-hmm.
I will know that you really saved my life, in full.
Well,
you did, but I have to wait a year. another.
well, look,
7 months.
I have these strong opinions because I want nothing but the best for you and anyone that has a hair transplant. That's why I do what I do. Okay, so I appreciate that,
strong
man.
opinion,
I really
based on
do.
experience.
Well, I appreciate that.
Thanks, man.
All right.
Thanks, man. Like your show, do what you do, and I'm gonna go to sleep.
All right. Sleep well. Thanks for calling, May. Bye-bye.
Yeah, good day.
Oh, he's always a great caller. Yeah. Toll free 1-833-563-4247. That is toll free North America. Of course, you can call worldwide using the calling app of your choice. I haven't even gotten to the subject of today's show. There's another player that's starting phase 1 trials for their hair loss treatment. I'm going to summarize it. That's why. Okay. That's great. Hey, you're on the main event. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hi, Joe. It's Lauren from California. How are you today?
I'm good, Lauren. How are you?
I'm great. I've got a question for you.
Sure.
What is the difference between a topical compounded finasteride, dutasteride, minoxidil solution and its partner, the one you take orally?
What is the difference between a topical application versus an oral application of any of the 3 hair loss medications that people are taking on a regular basis?
Yeah, you said it.
Okay.
Perfect.
Well, the whole reason why we have topical finasteride and topical dutasteride is. Sorry, are you in a restaurant or something? I'm hearing people behind you.
Yeah, that's. I'll put myself on mute.
Okay. So the reason why we have topical finasteride, topical dutasteride in the market is very simple. It's because in the mid 2000s, around 2006, there was one guy, after finasteride being available for about 10 years, that decided to go public and start talking about his sexual side effects. And then the floodgates opened. All of a sudden, it seemed like for the next several years, everyone was getting side effects. It wasn't the case. But there were a lot of people talking about it, but not as many as it seemed based on all the conjecture going around. So anyway, in other words, there's a lot of rumor, a lot of innuendo, but the damage was done, scared the shit out of people. And so some people came up with the idea, well, maybe we can make a topical version of, at the time, finasteride. And that's when Dr. Lee, he was a doctor down in California, actually. That's when he started releasing his topical finasteride. He had up to 15% topical minoxidil, and I believe someone in the chat room can, or someone in the comments in the replay can correct me on this. I think he had a combination. I don't think he was the first to do this, but he was the first famous brand that was available as such. And so as this has moved forward in time and kind of matured as far as delivery methods, there are different delivery methods for from different compounding pharmacies and different brands, we'll say. There are some claims that topical finasteride and now dutasteride is more effective than the oral version. And the reason for it, or the reason why topical was the alternative to the oral finasteride, is because the idea was that because oral goes completely systemic, meaning throughout every tissue in your body, organ and tissue, that topical is isolated to where it needs to be to fight hair loss, which is at the follicle, which wasn't entirely true. We do know that to some degree, at least in my opinion, based on everything I've seen, I'll say it like this. I don't know of a single topical that doesn't go systemic to some degree. And I say this because even the most passionate claims that there are no side effects, there are people online talking about side effects. Topical finasteride, that is. So that's why these came out. The topical minoxidil was the original form that was the original way it came out to fight hair loss. And I'm not sure about the progression of that because it is an oral medication originally known as Lonitin. I don't know how it became a topical. It might be because of the systemic effects of oral minoxidil at the time, which was given in much higher dosages for blood pressure, which is why it came out to begin with as Lonitin. It's a blood pressure medication. So it makes sense why they would come out with a topical. But the side effects still are listed on the box for topical minoxidil. But that's why it came out. The finasteride and dutasteride to avoid side effects that are associated with the oral versions of those medications. I have to assume that's why minoxidil was topical at first as well. And as far as the efficacy goes, the jury's out on that. The manufacturers of topical applications will tell you that they are every bit as effective as their oral counterparts. I don't know if that's true. And I say that for a very specific reason. Not so much for the absorption factor. I don't have a problem believing that a topical can be absorbed enough to be effective. And in some cases, the manufacturers will figure that into their equations by having a higher dosage of the active ingredient topically than they do orally because of that reduction overall of absorption. So they're making up for that by having more of it in the topical so that more can actually get through or enough can get through to cause an effect. But the reason why I doubt the efficacy across the board is because every one of these topical applications are using, wait for it, anyone in the chat room understand? Know what I'm going to say? We got a time delay. They're all using generic ingredients. They're all using generic finasteride. They're all using generic dutasteride. If you're a follower of this channel, which you should be subscribed to, of course, like this video, because this is a good show today, you know how I feel about generics. And it's not just me. The evidence shows that generics, as you know, across the spectrum, are not going to be as reliable consistently compared to the original name brand of insert medication name here. And that's what I find with finasteride. That's what I find with dutasteride. And I've mentioned this before, but no one talks about this. I'm the only one that's brought this up. So that's why I don't believe that they're as effective as name brand oral medications. They may be just fine. And in fact, I know like some topicals are fantastic. The topical from Dr. Yaker, Hair Transplant Mentor Accepted Member, IHRS, he's got a fantastic topical. I know it's fantastic because he keeps sending me before and after results of his patients. He's had it. He created it a couple years ago and he's been refining it. But I know that he's also a stickler for the source of his ingredients, which is a big deal. There's another one out there I believe is pretty effective, and that's Happy Head. Can't say the name straight face. That's supposed to be a good one as well. But in general, I don't know. Like I know the manufacturers of some of the brands out there, but I don't know the consistency of their product as far as what goes into it. There's a lot that goes into the idea of a topical application where people look at the brand, but they're not thinking about the ingredients behind the brand. What's going in to make this? Generics. So I hope that answers your question.
Amazing. What an answer. It's really, really enlightening.
I'll take that as a yes. Well, I'm glad it helped. I haven't thought about this one in a while, but that is. I'm glad you asked because I'm glad that's been brought back to the forefront of my thought process right now, because there are topicals out there that I do know are effective. It's just that whole question of what goes into it, no one's asking. Like, what's the consistency of your source? Is it the same as, when you go to Costco? Are they switching out brands based on who won the bid for that quarter or for that fiscal year? I don't know. I hope they know.
If I were to contact Dr. Yeager, what is the protocol for maybe asking him to give me a prescription?
He will probably, yeah. Well, I know there are patients in California that have gotten it from him. So it's an online consultation. I don't know if he charges for it, but if he does, then so be it. It's probably worth it. And then whatever telehealth system that's worked out, he is licensed in California as far as I know. So yeah, just contact the office and ask for a consultation and go from there.
Awesome. You're great, Joe. Thank you very much.
Thanks for calling. He hung up quick. Anyway, that was an interesting call. Toll free 1-833-563-4247. Let's see if there's any questions in the chat room. I see a lot of movement out the side of my eye here. And as always, you guys, I love seeing the I love seeing the activity. What's this about Morty's birthday? He said it's not for a few weeks. Why are you guys talking? It's not his birthday yet. Let's see, who's this? Hey, thanks for calling the main event. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, my name is Roger, New York.
Hello, Roger, New York. How are you?
Main event. What's good?
You got the speaker playing in the background. Can you turn that off or turn it down?
Oh, yeah, sure. Turned it off.
Right on. What's going on, man? What can I help you with?
Just wanted to see if you guys have any list of your current favorite recommendations for doctors in the U.S.
You guys, meaning me?
Or you, yeah. Sorry.
Well, I got my website, hairtransplantmentor.com, where I have the list of doctors that have applied and passed my review. I do have 2 doctors I'm looking at right now that are pretty anxious to come aboard, and I think I'll probably bring them aboard unless there's something that stands out that I wasn't expecting. It's funny. I got a message from one of them. He was asking, God bless him. He's asking if there's any way he can give a deposit for because he's taken some time to get the information together that I asked, and I thought it was so nice of him. He's so anxious to come on board, and he wants to make sure that he's got a spot. And I had to tell him, well, there's nothing to your spot isn't being taken by anyone. It's just, So anyway, the list is on my website. Just click on on doctors.
Not necessarily like a particular ranking within that or preference within that or something like that.
No, and I don't believe in that. There are some websites that have like the A team and the B team, which makes no sense to me whatsoever. That's one of the weirdest things I've ever seen, where a doctor is happy to be part of a website where they're looked at as the B team, as not quite as good as the other guys that pay more for their membership. It's just weird.
Right. I saw in the comments there was another subscriber who said he's going to be with Dr. Cole.
Mm-hmm.
in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And I know Dr. Cole also does his own formulations for topicals, which you were just talking about with the previous caller. Do you have any experience with his formulations?
No, and I don't. I think he recommends maybe a pharmacy in the Alpharetta / Atlanta area that he works with, a compounding pharmacy, and there might be one in New York that he's working with as well, or it might be the same one. I don't know, but no, I don't know. We've not talked about it very much. I do know that he's a fan of topicals. I was under the impression he was using. No, he's not using it because he can't bring it in the country. It's a compound pharmacy outside the States. So, sorry, thinking out loud. I do know that he's a fan of topicals. And in some cases, he believes that it's more effective than oral, and that's fine. And I've seen some results that he shared with me. I don't know if it's the pharmacy that he's using, but I do know that he's a fan. And if he's a fan of it, then there's got to be something to it. I trust his judgment.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate everything you do for everybody.
You're welcome. Thanks for calling. I appreciate the call. All right. Line is open. Toll free North America. It's 1-833-563-4247. And of course, calling from the phone app of your choice, you can reach me worldwide. Let's see. I was going to the chat room, and then next I'll go back to the story of the day. Let's see. Hair Boutique, you're welcome. Danish Bhatti, welcome. Sir, suggest any hair transplant surgeon in Pakistan. I wish I could. There used to be there's a doctor in Pakistan, a hell of a nice guy, and I thought he was pretty good, but unfortunately he passed away about a year ago, sometime last year. Maybe a year and a half ago. It was tragic actually because he was well liked, but I don't have anyone in Pakistan I can recommend. I'm sorry. There's a lot of surgery being done in Pakistan though. Let's see what we got here. Is it true that, as Dr. Bassman says, that everyone starts off with a concave hairline? No, it's not. Let me qualify that. There, in most cases, there are somewhat concave hairlines, but there are people, a lot of people actually, that are born with hairlines that are not concave. In fact, they can be classified as triangular alopecia, where they automatically have high temples. I've seen that several times because they've come in to get a hair transplant with us. But it is supposed to be that way. I think that makes sense. I hope that answers your question. Let's see. FUT is better. FUT is better at young age. Dr. Rana Irfan, ABH, just members. Okay, to young patients. You view, sir. Okay, thank you. Not sure what you're saying. Let's see. Dr. Seti says that even young boys start off with sharp hairlines that are not concave. Well, not really. I mean, when you think of the coveted Norwood 1 hairline that doesn't exist, that would be probably what Dr. Rassman's talking about with regards to a concave hairline. Because most boys, and I do mean boys, prepubescent boys, will have a rounding off in the temples before they begin puberty, and then eventually before they have some sort of temporal recession. Not as rounded as females, two different styles, but in general, that is correct. There are cases where the temple into the temple point can be a sharp angle, but there's still some sort of rounding that goes on. It's not very sharp, but it's also not very broad. So it's hard to describe without visual aids. And running my finger along my hairline is not very good. So we'll just move on here. Let's see. Is Dr. Alvi Armani still alive? Sorry for the basic questions. There were some reports he passed away. Yes, unfortunately, he passed away about a year ago or a year and a half ago, so somewhere around that time. But he had already been out of the industry for several years. I forgot when he actually exited. But yeah, it's been a while. Let's see, what else we got here? Joe, where do we send money for Morty's birthday stripper? Good question. Good question. I'm working on that. Stay tuned. Let's see. Looking for more questions. Okay. Don't see any more questions. So, wait, here we go. Nope. Yeah. So let's see if we can pull up the story of the day before the phone rings again. Yeah. Gotta scroll. Okay. Olix Pharmaceuticals begins RNAi hair growth trials. This is as of yesterday, and this is a continuing story found where? On hairlosscure2020.com. The one, the only. I go to this website to look for ideas for the show. That's why you guys should too. Fantastic resource. So he writes, in 2021, I wrote a post on microRNA or miRNA and hair growth, and it is a hyperlink. In there, I also discussed a new company working on messenger RNA, mRNA, based hair regeneration, and we now have RNA interference as a hair loss treatment, which is another RNA type of treatment. Thanks to Olix Pharmaceuticals in South Korea and its interfering RNA siRNA-based product. Also, not to forget, most recently we have become excited, by Cosma RNA, a siRNA-based hair loss treatment that targets the androgen receptor. Talked about it here on the show several weeks back. siRNA is a new type of siRNA nanoparticle that does not result in innate immune stimulation. And that's a problem with some of these delivery systems where they themselves will trigger an immune response, which leads to all sorts of complications and problems. And he says here, the number of different acronyms containing RNA, quote unquote, that are being developed for hair loss treatments is mind-boggling, and I agree with that. So the update has to do with Olix Pharmaceuticals just announcing that it has commenced phase 1 clinical trials for OLX72021. Gotta love those names. This investigational RNAi therapeutic suppresses the hormonal activity that causes androgenic alopecia by reducing the expression of the androgen receptor, which is what we've been dealing with some of these other ones. OLX72021 is topically injected into the scalps of men with male pattern hair loss. It seems that OLX104C has been renamed to the 72021, although the former name is still one listed on the company's pipeline page. The 30 trial participants will be split into 5 cohorts that will get 1 intradermal injection of various doses or placebo and come back for follow-up after 8 weeks. The injection will be spread across 6 areas of alopecia near the crown region of the patient's scalps. So only 30 participants in phase 1 and 6 areas of injections around the crown. So they're looking for people, or they're using people that have only crown loss or at least crown loss, so they can focus on that area. I'm wondering if they're going to be having a standard for how much loss or requirement, a baseline for how much loss in the crown before they accept their participants. But I'm noticing that they're looking for follow-up after only 8 weeks, 2 months. I wonder how much further out from that initial follow-up they're going to be following their patients, because what was it in not the Cosma RNA, but the Kintor, I think it was the Kintor trials, they stopped following at 6 months, at 24 weeks. So I think it was the Kintor study, the phase 2, I think. But I think that's woefully inadequate for a true gauge of efficacy. But we'll see. But the reason why I brought this up is we got more stuff coming, people. And South Korea seems to be a hotbed for this kind of research. I don't know if it's because of regulations or opportunities, but I know that South Korea in general is a hotbed of pharmaceutical development in general. But it seems like the hair restoration bug has really worked its way into their system. So hopefully there's even more treatments going to come out. I think that the more mud that we throw at the wall, the more likelihood some of it will stick. So we'll see. You guys can give me a call. What do you think of this? You're welcome to give me your thoughts. As always, be very skeptical. I am the skeptic. If you guys have been a subscriber for any amount of time or follow my website, you know that I am the skeptic when it comes to these kinds of things. I've only recently started talking about it because it is interesting. I know some of you guys love this kind of stuff. That's why hair loss discussions online are so much more popular than hair surgery discussions online. You go to any forum, not any forum, but you look at some of the forums and you'll see that the hair loss discussion sections are huge, whereas hair transplant sections, they may have a good audience, but it's the hair loss section. If they're active, that's where the activity is, especially on Reddit. My God. But of course, on Reddit, you've got a lot of the bro science stuff going on and supposed experts, which blow my mind. But anyway, let me know what you think of this, or if you got more questions about hair loss or hair transplant surgery. The number's toll free in North America, 1-833-563-4247. Anything going on in the chat room? Do top clinics embellish the graft count or yield? No, they don't. The yield, maybe, yes. I'm not a fan of that whole 98% success rate or growth rate bullshit. They don't know. They just know it works and the patients are happy, which is what matters. I auditioned to play the part as Johnny Rotten in the movie Sid and Nancy, 1995. That's Andrew Vernon. Nice. That's a classic. God, you just brought back some memories. Let's see. Macro. Is getting an operation with Dr. Cole in New York as getting it in Atlanta, or is Atlanta better? I don't see why there'd be a difference. He brings his staff there. Ask him. That's a good question. Let's see. What we got here? Other questions. Why do gray hairs often appear thicker? I can't say that they do. At least not my experience. Let's see. Anything else? Maybe you could. Okay, you guys talking about Morty's upcoming birthday. That's good. I think doctors, even good ones, don't honestly disclose the actual number of grafts implanted. Can you shed some light on this, Joe? Spill the tea. That's from John Henry Lalinjaman. Many different ways to say that. Let me read the question out loud again. It is a good, or not question, but the comment. It is a good comment. I think doctors, even good ones, do not necessarily disclose honestly the actual number of grafts implanted. Can you shed some light on this, Joe? Good clinics, the ones that have reputations, don't do this. They don't need to. There's a situation where sometimes the patient might not understand what's going on. It might be because the clinic just didn't explain it properly. But you can actually sometimes have more grafts than you have incisions. This is a big one. I remember someone lost their damn mind. They lost their shit when they did the math, more or less, and they discovered a discrepancy. And when it was explained to them, the concept of doubling up, they didn't believe it. They actually went on a tirade against the clinic publicly and accused them of lying. Wasn't a clinic I work with, but I remember this. This was I don't remember when this was, but there was a concept called doubling up. What is that? Well, in some clinics, when you have extra grafts. Like this can happen where you estimate, okay, we need to make this many incisions into the scalp, and we think this will address the issue, and we want to put doubles here and maybe triples here, and they got it planned out, and they fill them the way they wanted to, but then they look over, it's like, oh, we got more grafts. We didn't mean to have more grafts, and this is more common in strip cases because you can't control the number of grafts that you get nearly as effectively or effectively as you can with FUE. Because with FUE, you're taking out each individual graft on their own. So with a strip, you get what you get. And sometimes it's close, sometimes it's not so close, and that's just the way the ball bounces. So what do? Well, if you have, say, a bunch of singles that you have no place to put, the hairline's done, or it may not be done, then what you'll do is you'll take some of those singles and you'll actually insert them into the same incision as an existing graft. Hopefully it's a existing double or triple, and you just make it a triple or a quad. That's fairly common in strip surgeries, and it does benefit you because sometimes thicker grafts create a fuller appearance. And if it's behind the hairline, then you're not going to have any sort of unnatural appearance that would become an issue. So that is a legitimate situation where, yeah, the numbers, they're not fudged, but it looks like they're fudged. Where you're told and you're charged for X number of grafts, but then you go home and you're one of these people that counts every one of them, and you're like, shit, there's like 100 less grafts. Do they steal 100 grafts from me? Like they overcharge me? No, they doubled up. And it happens. And it's not, there's nothing wrong with it. Like if they got to do something with the grafts and there's no room to make more incisions, then they'll put them into existing incisions. I hope that makes sense. So, okay. Where else are you going to hear this kind of stuff? Let's see. Any other questions? Yes, Andrew Vernon. I had a terrible strip surgery experience in South Korea. Yes. Let's see. Yeah, you lived in South Korea for 5 years. Wow. Looking for more questions. It's been a great show so far, guys. I appreciate the calls. Appreciate your comments. Does finasteride, good question. Does finasteride cause low sperm count? Is it something frequently experienced by men? No. There's nothing out there that I'm aware of, studies that indicates a reduced sperm count. However, it does, in some men, reduce the seminal volume, which is what carries the sperm cells. So that can happen, but that doesn't affect fertility, just so you know. Any other questions? I'm back and still, yes, we're still going. Wow, I know, right? Does finasteride, okay, we did that one. Yes, that question twice. Why? Let's see. Is it when you pit top grafts on one hole? Is it when you put I don't know what you're saying, milk drinker. Macro, do you have a current opinion on FUE versus FUS versus other? What's other? I don't know what the third option is. No, they're both fine. I've had both FUE, I've had strip, I've had body hair. If you know my history, FUS and FUT are the same. Just so you know. Thanks for that clarification, but they're the same. FUT stands for follicular unit transplantation, which by definition, very important, is the use of stereoscopic dissecting microscopes to sliver and dissect individual follicular units from a strip tissue, from a strip of tissue. FUS is what FUT should be called, follicular unit strip surgery, because it does separate. Let me back up. With FUE, you're supposed to be doing follicular unit extraction, but it's not actually follicular unit extraction. Sometimes it's two follicles in one extraction. depending on how many hairs and how close they are together. It's a misnomer. But follicular unit strip surgery is the differentiator as far as identification between actual FUT and FUE. Because right now, FUE is considered to be follicular unit transplantation, just based on the name. I know we're getting confusing here, but it's not. So anyway, yeah, FUT and FUSS are actually the same thing. So confuses me. Let's see. There was another question here I was going to answer. Is it better to take oral minoxidil in the morning or evening? Good question. My opinion, at night. Got a phone call. All right. And you're on the main event. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey.
And you got your speaker on the background. Can you please turn that down?
And you're on the main event. What's your name and where are you calling from? Hey.
Hey.
Dr. Cole.
Well, hey, Doc. Dr. John Cole in the house. How you doing?
Good.
Oh,
Good.
Fantastic you're calling, man. What's going on?
No, not much. I was just making I was working late because I was playing with making a new PRF product.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It surprised me. The platelet count was about 550,000, something like that.
Okay. That's healthy.
So, yeah, I was surprised. It doesn't match what I'm shooting for with PRP. Like I want over 1 million platelets.
Yeah, I was going to say. Yeah.
But for donor healing,
Uh-huh.
After you do the FUE procedure, so what I do is I take the albumin, the serum,
Yeah.
and heat it to 75 degrees Fahrenheit
Okay.
for about 15 minutes and turn it into kind of a paste. And then mix it with the what they claim is a PRF, but it's really just a slow spin, non-coagulated, basically whole blood.
Mm-hmm.
And then you pull that off, and that's your PRF. You mix it with the paste, and then you can put it on the donor area, and it's kind of a gel. So it's really nice.
Okay.
I like it.
Nice. All right.
Yeah.
That's good to know. It's good to know. What's on your mind, Doc? What you calling for?
Oh, man, I just saw you were on tonight and saw you didn't have any calls and you were just answering questions, so I figured I'd call in and say hello.
Well, I appreciate that, and I'm actually glad you called. Well, I love it when you call anyway, but I'm glad you called because we were talking about topical minoxidil, or not minoxidil, but topical finasteride not too long ago, and someone was asking about what you've been recommending, and I wasn't sure because I know your thoughts on topical finasteride. I know you love it. You're a fan of it. In some cases, I've heard you say, you've told me, behind the scenes that and you may have said this publicly, that you feel that it can be and is more effective than oral minoxidil, oral finasteride for a lot of patients. But the question was, are you working with a specific pharmacy for compounding something under your guidance, or are you referring to a source that you know is a good source?
I was talking about topical finasteride being much better than the oral.
Yeah.
Not a little bit better, like when it works, and it doesn't always work.
Right.
But when it works, it's like 1,000 times better.
And to be clear, you're also talking about the formulation from Pharmacia Prorati in Milan, Italy, correct?
Well, yeah, Pharmacia Prorati. I like the pharmacy, and he's got a top-notch facility.
I like Morrow. He's just like one of the nicest guys.
Yeah, he really is.
Yeah.
And so, but he has one heck of a facility. I think he sold it though. So I'm not sure exactly what he's doing. I know he's working with Victor with his liposomal delivery system, and it's really intriguing.
Mm-hmm.
I got to talk to Victor about that. But I worked with Morrow at Pharmacia Prorati, and I worked with another pharmacy in Rome, and the one in Rome uses a cyclosilica base, which I haven't been able to find a single pharmacy in the U.S. that knows what the hell that is. So, when you go to a compounding pharmacy, let's say I tell the pharmacy I want a 2.5% finasteride. That's 25 milligrams of finasteride. That's 25 Propecia pills, right?
Right.
The first thing they're going to go is, oh, that's too much.
Yeah.
And, well, sometimes we got to go that high.
Yeah. Well, just because of the absorption issue, you're not getting as much through as you would orally. So yeah, you got to kind of overdo it a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. So we kind of think the minimal effective dose is 0.5%. So, people that were getting that HIMSS product are getting about 0.1%, maybe maximum 0.3. Yeah. And I think that's subtherapeutic. So that's like taking a half Propecia. It's probably not going to do anything.
Right.
And so I'm very careful about dealing with pharmacies because I don't want to argue.
Did you hear
pharmacists.
that? Did you hear that rumble? That was the microdosing proponents losing their minds hearing you say that.
Let them. Don't. And then so I found a pharmacy working with Dow Stow in Arkansas. Yeah. And that guy wound up selling his pharmacy. And he just started switching my patients over to some other compounding pharmacy. And people were telling me the formulation wasn't the same. I said, well, I'm not going to use him. Yeah. So then I found a pharmacy in Atlanta. And, what I didn't love about them was the pricing. Yeah. So I found another one in Atlanta that gives them patients a little bit better price. Now, here's the thing with pharmacies. They got to have a license in any state you send the product to. Right, of course. So, the key is finding a pharmacy that's got a license in every state. Mm-hmm. And that way, now you're in business. Yeah. And so both the guys I use in Atlanta, which, I'm not affiliated financially, it's against the law for me to be affiliated. They got to have a license and they do what I ask them to do. And they're pretty clever when I start switching things up. Like right now I'm doing a lot of dutasteride with bitomapros. I'm using the bitomapros because it's a fraction of the cost of the latanoprost and it's the same damn thing. Right. Okay. And we're doing that with minoxidil and driving it with the TED, that's what solved my hair loss problem. I was using topical finasteride, and I'm a weak responder based on the tricho test. Yeah, I wasn't getting much out of it, and I was throwing spironolactone in there with it. Mm-hmm. It's just holding kind of the same. Yeah, and I did that TED with dutasteride. It changed. It was a game changer. Wow. So the way I kind of look at it is people talk about, well, what should I use? What, I can't get my hands on this. They don't make it in this country or whatever. Like there was a guy from the UK talking about they don't put spironolactone on the tricho test in the UK. And I got to get back with him because he asked some really good questions and made some good points. But bottom line is I look at topicals like you're trying to find the right woman to marry, right? That way, you're not just going to go out with one and marry her. She might not be the right one. Yeah. And so you got to keep shopping around till you find the right one. And so with topical therapy, sometimes you got to mix and match and change products before you find what's really going to work for you. So it's just like finding the right woman, find the right topical. Of course. Yeah. Words of wisdom. I like it. Yeah. Okay. That's my take on it. Well, I appreciate that. Where are you calling from today? Are you in New York or Georgia? I'm Georgia. You're in Georgia? Yeah. Right on. When you headed back to New York? I'm going on Thursday night. Okay. Late. I get there like 1 a.m. Friday morning. Right on. Okay. Right on. And how's your newest consultant working out for you, Morty? Morty. Yeah, he told me somebody said he's working for me, but he's not. we tease him about it because he does talk to patients and he's come so far in his education about this the procedure, about the industry, and I
I laugh about it because I remember when he first called a few years ago, and I feel like a proud papa. Like he's learned so much, and he's just doing so well and helping others, and it's just brings a tear to my eye.
He's just a super guy, and he's so nice. Everybody likes him.
How can you not like Morty?
Yeah, I mean, he does a lot of research. We'll be in there talking to a patient, and he'll come up with something. I'm like, wait, I hadn't heard that, Morty.
Yeah.
You know? So it's kind of a good relationship from a professional perspective.
Of course.
He loves coming in and seeing people, but we spend a lot of time socially as well.
Of course. Just be careful when you step out of the surgery room. You might come back and find him in scrubs, okay?
Yeah. You know what? He hasn't shown up for one surgery day yet. That's not his cup of tea.
Well, awesome. Well, Doc, it was great hearing from you. I hope you're doing well. And by the way, I saw your daughter with with a syringe in her hand. Is she doing treatments?
No, she's working for a Mohs surgeon. Yeah.
Okay.
She's working. Yeah, she did some research with me. We were looking at different PRP kits and checking the capture rate.
Yep.
And coming up with formulas on how people could determine how many cc's they had to concentrate their PRP product to reach a certain count.
Yeah.
And we got it down pretty good. We got a good formula down, which I'm going to present in Bangkok.
Okay.
You know, it's not 100% accurate because platelet capture rates vary. But if you know the kit, there's an average. And so what we did is we collected about 1,000 samples and ran the numbers on everything.
Yeah.
And we came up with what the average capture rate was. And there is a range of variation between kits. You know, for me to get enough volume of PRP, I need at least 2 kits.
Yeah.
On really big scalps, I might need a third.
Yeah. And
the capture rate between 2 kits on the same patient, on the same blood draw, at the same time, varies. So there is a manufacturing issue with PRP kits.
Yeah, that's there seems. Yeah, I mean, it's just another aspect of hair loss treatments that lacks a certain level of consistency that would really benefit everyone if that could be worked out. But yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Hey, did you say Bangkok or did you mean Bucharest?
Well, the meeting in Bangkok is the Asian Association. And we're
that's
really
right.
Fortunate. Yeah, the regenerative session's not going to be very good because it's only an hour long, and they won't give me any more time, and they're making me use a couple of speakers that I'm not real like. That's not going to really be too much good information. But what the hell? But what we got that's great is we've got a surgery room at the hospital.
Okay.
On Sunday. Where we're going to be doing a full regenerative protocol. We're going to do adipose. We're going to pull PRP. We're doing exosomes. And, and I got to talk to all the doctors I got on my team and see whether or not we think we can do more than one patient.
Yeah.
And then the following day, you know Dr. Jupe, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Dr. Jupe is having a private workshop at her office. And so we're going to do another regenerative patient there. So we got 2 shots at regen.
Okay.
So hopefully we'll get more people doing it right.
Okay. That's what I like to hear. Spread the knowledge, spread the love. Good stuff. And awesome. Well, Doc, good hearing from you as always.
There's one question. It says, does Dr. Cole think PRP is good or crap?
Oh.
Well, it can be crap. It can be crap.
Oh, yeah. Rob Hellner. Yeah, great question. Yeah. Well, just like anything in this industry, it can be. I would actually venture to say most of it is crap.
Well, okay. Think about platelet-rich plasma is where your baseline platelet count. Let's say it's 200,000, and that's 200,000 per microliter platelet.
Yeah.
So a platelet-rich plasma would be anything above that.
Yeah.
All right. Now there's what we might call a sweet spot for different conditions you're treating. and that sweet spot might be 350,000 to 500,000 for if you're treating sort of an avascular tissue like bone, like a joint or a muscle or a tendon. There's not as much circulation, let's say. But when you're treating hair, I find that it's concentration dependent, and so I always shoot for over 1 million platelets per microliter.
Yeah.
So that's taking 200,000 and turning it into 1 million plus. And sometimes I get 2 million. You probably don't want to go too much higher, but occasionally I hit 2.4. And I need at least 10 cc's of PRP to treat a scalp.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're taking a tube that holds, let's say, 13 cc's, you're not going to be able to make 10 cc's of PRP. 10 cc's, 13, if it holds 13 cc's of whole blood, there's no way you're getting enough volume.
Yeah.
So when you use a test kit like Regen, you're going to be usually in the 300, 350,000 range, and occasionally it's below the 200,000.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things we did in Istanbul is we had doctors bring in their PRP kits, and we did a baseline blood draw on a patient, and then we drew blood to run through the different PRP kits and check the platelet count in those kits. Some of the kits were not PRP; they were platelet poor plasma.
Yeah.
And the lowest was about 36,000 on a baseline of 230,000.
Wow.
So so and then they'll brag about my PRP kit only cost me €10.
Yeah.
I guess they're charging the patient a bunch, but I mean that's low enough you start giving it away. And so if you don't know what your kit will do, sometimes you think you're delivering PRP and it's platelet poor plasma.
Yeah.
On occasion, you might hit 450,000 or 320,000 from 200,000 baseline.
Yeah.
But that's not adequate for hair.
No.
I would say the minimal is going to be somewhere around 700,000 platelets. And there are very
as a
kits
minimum.
that'll hit that.
As a minimum, 700,000. Yeah.
Yeah. If you took Regen and you wanted to hit 700,000 platelets, you probably on a 15 cc draw, you might get like 0.8 cc's of PRP.
Mm-hmm.
And so imagine how many tubes you'd have to draw to get 10 cc's.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, and so Angel Arthrex has a super low capture rate of only about 30%. Insight's around 71%. And so you got to know your capture rate.
Yeah.
Because you have 10 platelets and you capture 3, that's 30%. It'd be great to get 9 out of 10, but there are very few kits that'll hit that. And T-Lab's one of them, but T-Lab doesn't hit the platelet count I want.
So in other words, you have to draw so much blood to get the platelet counts you need that the patient would be passing out.
Well, maybe so, or the doctor isn't going to spend that much money to get that much volume.
No, of course.
I can tell you that for a fact. I know what doctors in their bank accounts.
Yeah.
Being in the medical instrument business, I know what they want to spend.
Yeah, of course. So, yeah, that's a good way to gauge that is the tools that they're buying for sure.
Yeah. So then you look at the kits on the market, and the only 3 I really stand behind are Angel Arthrex, although I'm not a fan of their PRP capture rate. I like Insight and I like Magellan. Mm-hmm. And that's what we have in the U.S. Now, overseas, I can't really evaluate everything, but those are only 3 I would even consider.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, no, that's. I think that more than answers the question for Rob. Rob, you can put a thumbs up in the chat. Well, you can't do thumbs up, but you can say thank you, Dr. Cole, because that was a very comprehensive and informative answer. But what else will we expect from Dr. John Cole? Doc, super great to hear from you. Thanks so much for calling, and of course, call back anytime. You have yourself a great night.
All right, brother. You take care.
All right.
Glad I caught you.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Glad you called. Take care now.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
You good, guys. Bye-bye.
Dr. John Cole, everyone, hair transplant mentor accepted member. Phone lines are open, 1-833-563-4247. It is 5:01, but I'm going to stay on an extra few minutes simply because I started late today. It was a hell of a day. It was a great day, very productive, and glad to finally be here. Glad everyone joined us today. Thank you for the support as always, and I could use some more likes, people. What's going on? Why are you so stingy? Can always use some more likes for each video. And of course, if you haven't subscribed, come on, what's wrong with you? Hit the subscribe button and make sure that all notifications are enabled by ringing that bell. I think that's a default option now, so you don't really need to do that, but it doesn't hurt to check. But yeah, great show. I'm going to be on for another few minutes, so anyone can call. It's 833-563-4247. It is toll-free in North America, but if you are calling internationally, you can use the calling app of your choice. And I know it's late in the UK right now, it's about midnight, or it's 1 a.m. in London, but Greenwich Mean Time, which is east of London, is midnight. So let's see, who's doing those? Yeah, I don't know, Rob. Who's doing those hearts? I appreciate it. It means you love the show. That's great. If you're listening and not watching in the chat, you can hit hearts saying that you love the show. Really appreciate that. Hair Boutique, already liked and subscribed. I know that. Thank you. I appreciate that. Always appreciate your support. Okay, no calls. It is, 5:02? That's fine. I think we'll wrap it up. It's a great show. I appreciate everyone for tuning in, as always. Tomorrow, June 15th, Thursday, I'm going to have to figure out what to talk about. You guys can give me your suggestions down in the comments section after this particular video is ended and is in replay mode. Feel free to give your opinions and ideas on what I can talk about tomorrow. But as always, I'm going to be taking your calls. You can call in and ask me questions about hair loss, medications. We had some great questions today about hair loss medications, about topicals and orals and all those good things. And of course, hair transplant surgery, which is my wheelhouse. I love talking about surgery. And anything else that you guys can think of. So until tomorrow, guys, thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate all your support as always. And we'll see you tomorrow. Good night.